Get ready.
So between the four lords in Resident Evil Village, one was considered to be the most successful after being infected with a DeVuH parasite, showing us powers that seemed out of this world, even within the Resident Evil standards. Because after playing through RE Village, we learn about his true intentions, this character's powers, and his impact during this title, which this would have a drastic change in gameplay style and pacing, and the deviation from the survival horror aspect that was prevalent throughout most of this game. So without any more delays, let's cover the flawed story of Karl Heisenberg.
You're futile.
Where we cover his background, explain his inspiration to his character, his true allegiance, and why his portion of the game seemed out of place and flawed, where we see a drastic change in gameplay and genre style. So to begin, when I first heard the name Heisenberg, the first thing that came to my mind was Walter White from Breaking Bad. But that name from that show stemmed from another Heisenberg, specifically Karl Werner Heisenberg, a Nobel Prize winning theoretical physicist, famous for his discovery of the uncertainty principle. But actually his theory of ferromagnetism would be the inspiration to our character Heisenberg in Resident Evil Village, which I'll explain his abilities in full detail very soon in the video.
Who the fuck are you?
But also on top of that inspiration from Werner Heisenberg, the physicist, a couple more inspirations were noted that we see here in Resident Evil Village's Heisenberg, which would be the Dr. Victor Frankenstein and his creation called the Creature. Because on top of Heisenberg's abilities, he had the knack for creating some very interesting enemies that we saw in RE Village, which would be the soldat monsters.
Medical log, revitalization surgery. This is my 18th attempt. The subject is Oscar the stable boy, 20 years old. He fell down the well while drunk. Body is in good condition. Chest incision complete. Now to remove the heart and vital organs and implant the control device. Excellent. DeVuH has begun adhering to the nervous system. It's progressing even faster than before. Seems upping the ratio of meta-albumin in the artificial blood was the right choice. Now to pass a current through the brainstem using 6,600 volts. Come on. It has to work this time. Yes. Yes! Ha 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 ha! Wonderful! My creation! At last! I'll get that bitch yet. Ending recording.
This aspect to his character is a direct homage to what we just mentioned from Dr. Victor Frankenstein and his creation of the Creature. So with these inspirations to his character, what role would he play in Resident Evil Village, and what are the origins to his powers? Well, to begin with, like the other four lords in this game, he too was given the DeVuH parasite by Mother Miranda. But unlike some of his other colleagues, he wouldn't have any grotesque mutations so prominent on his body. Instead, something very special was imbued within Heisenberg, which the DeVuH parasite granted Heisenberg the power of magnetism, a reference back to Karl Werner Heisenberg, the physicist who had the theory of ferromagnetism. Though in this case, our Heisenberg in RE Village would use his power of magnetism to control the metals in the surrounding area, where he's able to use them as projectiles, shielding himself from attacks, and many other forms and mutations. Which all this is explained in the medical report from Mother Miranda's lab, stating, subject name, Karl Heisenberg, DeVuH affinity, incredibly favorable, brain function, normal. Has electric organs similar to the electric ray, narcoponica. These electric organs are connected to the subject's nervous system, can therefore pass and control electricity throughout the entire body, allowing control of magnetic fields, which is used to move metal. splendid specimen, but still an unfit vessel for Ava. So upon this revelation, one would think that he would be the perfect candidate for Mother Miranda's ambition of resurrecting her daughter Ava. But as we learn, Heisenberg resented the fact that he was infected by the Godot parasite that Mother Miranda gave him. Sure, this did imbue him with supernatural-like powers, but a great summary from his diary tells his inner thoughts about Mother Miranda and his situation. Reading, Miranda's abominable. Her deceits knows no bounds. We're merely a bunch of failed Godot experiments to her. I was just lucky I had more affinity to the stuff than the other poor schmucks in the village, so she still calls me her son. What a joke. I'll never forgive her for what she did to me. That crazy bitch has never been right in the head. She can't see the difference between experiment and family. Miranda didn't just change my body, she took my dignity. And if I don't kill her, then my life will never be my own. Still, she may be crazy, but she's also powerful. She can turn into anyone using the Megamycete. The trick is that brat, Rose. If I could access her power, then maybe. Speaking of, the kid's dad, Ethan has a pretty interesting body himself. Maybe I could get him to help me out.
Mother Miranda's gonna love you.
So after reading his diary, we see the inner turmoil within Heisenberg and his true motives of wanting to take down Mother Miranda using Ethan Winters' baby. Though as the story of Heisenberg goes, we first are introduced to him in the family meeting with the other four lords and Mother Miranda. Being a showman of a character, full of charisma, and not being scared to tell you what he thinks. Though this would quickly be transitioned with his so-called game, having lichens and many other things trying to kill Ethan Winters. Also, a great point to mention is his animosity with the other four lords of the village, especially Lady Alcina Dimitrescu.
Lady, supersized bitch. Ugly ass psycho doll. An moronic freak.
This of course is reverberated from Alcina's point of view as well, which tells us her disdain of Heisenberg.
Mother Miranda, I must protest. Heisenberg is but a child, and his devotion to you is questionable. Give the mortal to me, and I will ensure he is ready.
Shut your damn hole! And don't be a sore loser. Go find your food somewhere else.
Quiet now, child. Adults are talking. You escaped my little brother's idiot games, did you? That fool Heisenberg.
But progressing through the story of Resident Evil Village, we don't encounter Heisenberg until the latter half of the game, which so far in this title, we've experienced a general sense of dread and terror, which the three lords so far have displayed a good sense of what a true survival horror game should be, which is changed when we're contacted by him through television, prompting us to meet him at his factory at the outskirts of the village. This would then reveal his true plan to Ethan Winters, showing his true motives and outlook towards the other lords and Mother Miranda. Though all this planning and scheming and wanting to have Ethan help him take Mother Miranda down would be rejected, resulting in Heisenberg withdrawing his proposed partnership with Ethan and becoming the final lord antagonist that we face in his factory.
Last chance. You don't have to find out what's in that hole.
Though before that would happen, I just want to preface that this portion of the game deviates drastically from the survival horror aspect that we experience throughout most of the game, because moving forward, we will be playing in a much more action-heavy environment. This includes our fights with the new monsters in the Heisenberg factory. Also, just the overall pacing of the gameplay and battle mechanics would seem out of place within the game itself. But moving forward from that, because as mentioned earlier, Heisenberg's character was inspired from Dr. Victor Frankenstein and his creation of the creature. This would result in the correlation with Heisenberg and his creation of the soldat monsters and what many players out there would call the Propeller Man. The amalgamation of flesh and machine, using the Godot parasite as a binding agent to make the fusion of a half-humanoid, half-weaponized machine, which did give us some haunting moments during our playthrough in this segment of the game. But as I mentioned earlier, it felt as though our progression with this portion of the story deviates away from the survival horror, which had us going from fighting the supernatural-like dolls and creepy baby monsters, to fighting a half-humanoid machine robots, which was a little off-putting. because it's no secret at this point in the game that the heavy emphasis in the action was on full display, abandoning the creep factor that we just went through with the other 3 lords of the game, because the first segment has us in a medieval-like castle being chased around by vampiric enemies and monsters, then moving on to the scariest portion of the game with the Beneviento household, where we go up against the supernatural-like enemies like Angie and Donna, and the baby monster, then moving on to the more grotesque and disturbing-looking Moreau territory. But now we end up going up against robotic-like enemies, which were handcrafted by Heisenberg himself, which was supposed to help him overthrow Mother Miranda. Because all of this added together, in my opinion, the scare factor was dampened down, though the accumulation of gameplay pacing and the lack of scare factor and the use of the robotic-like weapons and enemies would only be doubled down with Heisenberg's mutation. Though to top this moment off, we end up using a battle machine to combat this larger-than-life Mechazoid mutation that Heisenberg has turned into, which had me scratch my head as to why the transition from a great survival horror game to now fighting a larger-than-life, half-fleshy robot monster. Because in all honesty, I found this mutation of Heisenberg to be completely flawed, because as we saw earlier, that he's able to use the surrounding metals as projectiles, hence the knife that he used to point at the faces of the other lords and Mother Miranda in this scene.
Lady, supersized bitch. Ugly ass psycho doll.
Well, he could have just used that exact same technique to quickly take out Ethan, but instead, we get Mega Godzilla while we use a lesser version of a Metal Gear to take him down.
What the fuck is this?
I'm really sorry for the lack of interest and rant in this portion of the game, but I felt that there was a flaw to the story of Heisenberg, because he could have been used in so many more ways instead of turning into a large mechanical robot. But in the end, Heisenberg's disdain for the other 4 lords and Mother Miranda was in full display, explaining that he did not like the fact that Mother Miranda gave him the gift of the Godot parasite, even though it did imbue him with great power. This would lead him into creating the amalgamation of the humanoid robotic creatures while using the Godot as a catalyst, then had the plan of teaming up with Ethan Winters, though would be rejected with this offer, resulting in him becoming Mecha Godzilla.
What the fuck is this?
Anyways, overall, Heisenberg was an interesting character, proving that he was a very powerful antagonist due to the Godot parasite, and it was nice to see that among the 4 lords of Resident Evil Village, that he would be the one to actually rebel against Mother Miranda, and now holding back his thoughts when confronting Alcina Dimitrescu.
Shut your damn hole!
Anyways, what did you guys think about Karl Heisenberg? And what do you guys think about the drastic change from the survival horror aspect to more of an action-heavy focus during this part of the game? Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Also, if you guys enjoyed the content, then please feel free to like and subscribe. And also, thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, you guys have a great rest of your day. And this is Hey DeVuH, and I'll see you guys in the next video.